Divinity Original Sin 2 can be a very challenging game, and there is a steep difficulty curve, especially at or near the beginning of the game. Even players who are veterans of the first game may find themselves a bit overwhelmed, so we've decided to put together a guide showing you a few things that might just make things a bit easier for you. We'll cover a few basics and also show you where some very good items are early on that will help you get off to a good start. For players unfamiliar with Divinity Original Sin 2, or even returning players from the precursor, there are a couple things you should know about. The first thing I'll cover is tags. What are tags? Tags are a way of opening up new dialogue options when speaking with NPCs or even companions. Because you can't have every tag in the game on your character, you'll have to pick and choose wisely and try to find ones that complement your companions. Since your companions can speak with NPCs as well and use their tags, it's best to try to pick ones they might not have. I've put together a quick list of tags of each companion to help you decide what yours will be during character creation. Each of your companions or potential companions has their own unique quest line, just like Divinity Original Sin did. Speak with them often to raise their attitude towards you because they can leave if it falls too low, and then you cannot use them or finish their quests. Pay attention and notice when they take over a conversation, as it usually means whoever you're speaking with will affect their quest line. It's always a good idea to save before triggering something that might not have the outcome you would expect, because you can mess up these quests permanently from the very beginning of the game without realizing it. Use the wiki and make sure you get these ones right. Divinity Original Sin 2 features a combat mechanic of Armour. Players and enemies can now nullify damage and status effects as long as they maintain their armor values. This means that launching a fireball into a bunch of enemies will no longer deal massive damage and set them all on fire. Now they will most likely block it with magic armor and won't burn one bit. This adds a bit more tactics to combat, and it also means that buffing and restoring armor values is tantamount while in battle. Players will also need to find good armor and upgrade often, or combat will become extremely difficult. This change forces players to find and craft better gear before progressing, instead of just relying on massive AoE spell and environmental effects to carry them through. Combat abilities have changed a bit from the original game, and now have slightly more sweeping effects, making them useful to some hybrid players. For example, Warfare now increases all your physical damage, making it useful for any character that utilizes bows or crossbows or melee weapons. Polymorph gives you extra attribute points, which allows for a more broad stat distribution. Pay attention to these bonuses and plan accordingly when making a build. The combinations that yield the best results are slightly different, but may catch you off guard if you make assumptions. Larian has also added 2 new combat abilities, Perseverance and Retribution. Perseverance regenerates physical and magical armor when CC'd, which can prevent you from being CC'd multiple times in a row, which is great. Retribution allows you to return damage taken and is good for those frontline tanky characters. Boosting either of these abilities up high will make for some really powerful builds. As for civil abilities, they have been consolidated and redefined, but for the large part remain mostly the same. Thievery is now a combination of pickpocket and lockpick, so you don't have to choose one or the other, which is nice. I strongly recommend getting at least one of your characters to 2 Thievery as fast as you can, as there are many chests and doors that can be opened if you do so. Early on in the game, there are some skills that are much more valuable than others, and it's always a good idea to have these until you've gotten the hang of combat. Below is a recommendation of some must-have skills that go a long way in the early going of Divinity Original Sin 2. Restoration. This skill is even better than the previous game because now it cures poison and bleed as well. Don't go anywhere without it, but you shouldn't need to use it as much with the addition of armor to the game. First Aid. This skill is infinitely better than the previous game and not only removes tons of negative status effects, but now heals the target for a decent amount of health. You can cast it on any party member as well, increasing its value. Marksman's Fang, previously Penetrating Shot. This skill ignores armor and hits all targets in a line, which means it can deal some serious damage. It's one of few abilities that can deal actual damage through armor, so it's worth getting. Electric Discharge, formerly Lightning Bolt. This ability is very good early on because not as many enemies have magic armor, so you are able to stun them. Preventing enemies from getting a turn is a huge advantage, especially when the odds are even at best. Teleportation. This skill can win you many more fights than it should be able to. Because AP is more limited in Divinity Original Sin 2, moving a melee character across the screen not only damages them, but also ensures they cannot attack you for at least a turn, and sometimes two. Elemental Totem. At first glance, this ability doesn't seem all that great, but you can have 3 of these out at once. If you can manage to keep them alive, you will eventually overwhelm your opponent with them, ensuring victory. It's best to place them where they won't be attacked for this reason. Battle Stomp. This ability knocks down targets in a line and clears surfaces and doesn't have friendly fire. What more could you want? Note, some of the values of these may have changed from early access, but the location remains the same. Combat has changed, making gear much more important, so you'll need good weapons and armor in order to undertake the task at hand. Below is a list of some great equipment that is easy to get if you know where to look. These items are in order from the most logical way to get them. Warning, mild spoilers. Darling Bow. This unique bow can be found in a hidden mound of dirt between where you land on the island and Fort Joy. If you have a lizard in your party, you can dig it up instantly, otherwise find a shovel. It's a great starter bow for those would-be rangers or wayfarers out there. Hildur's Plate and other armor. Hild is located in the kitchen area of Fort Joy, and she has a great selection of early armor that can really help the player for not a lot of money. She also sells her breastplate for a tidy sum. Buy what you can, when you can, to get an early edge in combat, and check back often as her gear improves as your level goes up. Kalias Stunner and other weapons and armor. Kalias is located in the caverns south of Fort Joy Ghetto. You can purchase his one-handed sword from him for around 550 gold. Spear of Brachus Rex. If you begin the quest Withermoor's Souljar by playing hide-and-seek with Modi in the caverns south of Fort Joy, you will be able to dig up a concealed door in the caverns leading beneath. Inside, you can speak with Lord Withermoor and pull the spear from his chest to acquire this two-handed spear. Gloves of Teleportation. These gloves allow the wearer to teleport party members and enemies to different locations, which can net you some sweet loot. In order to obtain them, you must speak with Gawin inside Fort Joy. He is just to the right as you enter through the gate where Atusa was killed, and he's pacing. And tell him you'll ditch your party. Ask him about his plan, and he will mark the location of 3 crocodiles on your map to the northwest of Fort Joy. They can be a pain, so you might need to fight them a time or two, but be sure you have a full party and or at least level 2. Be sure to use the high ground with your ranged characters to increase their damage. Loot the gloves from their corpse. Random uncommon loot. There is a curious chest you can teleport to once you've gotten the gloves of teleportation, and you can get some good uncommon items just after the gloves. They are random, so you won't know what you will get until you open it. Once you've opened it, keep heading forward and head up the hill on your right to find the Viper's Tongue, which is probably the best starter weapon in the game. Migo's Ring. Speak with Migo on the beach to the southeast of Fort Joy. Give him a Yarrow flower when you speak with him. You can find one just north of where you entered Fort Joy for the first time, or outside Mona's hut. He will give you his ring, which you can either keep or you can give to Magister Yarrow on the wall of Fort Joy. If you give it to her, follow her back to Migo and she will give you the Magister's key that opens a door just above a ladder you must kick down in Fort Joy Ghetto. Inside that door is the Bloodrain skill book, some gold, and a few other things you can sell. Magister's Breastplate. You can get this chest armor and some other goodies by using the gloves of teleportation at the ladder in Fort Joy Ghetto. Teleport someone up, kick the ladder down, and open the door if you gave Magister Yarrow the ring and get some free loot and the skill book Rain of Blood. Afterwards, at the door, sneak left of the ladder and teleport someone down behind the gate of Fort Joy where the Magisters are guarding. Make sure you're sneaking when you do this. Sprint up the stairs on the opposite side and you'll see a guard patrolling in some crates in a tent. Inside the tent is the breastplate. Run over, grab it, and run back, and then have someone quickly teleport you back up before you were caught by the guards. This has changed a little bit since the early access version of the game when you could simply sneak over and grab it. Gawin's Robe. In order to obtain this robe, you must tell Gawin that you have acquired the gloves of teleportation and follow him to the hidden alcove. Once there, use the gloves to teleport him across the ravine and then teleport another player over. Minor spoiler: Gawin will be killed, and then you can sneak up to his corpse and loot it to get the robe. You will need to be invisible for this, so use a potion of invisibility or use a skill like Chameleon Cloak. There are also about a dozen lockpicks you will pass on the way, as each workbench carries one or two, and there are several, so this is a great place to get a bunch early on. Again, this part has changed slightly from the early access version of the game where all you needed to do was sneak over to his corpse. That wraps up our Getting Started guide for Divinity Original Sin 2. Be sure to stay tuned for more Divinity content throughout September, as we will be putting together some build guides and walkthroughs. And be sure to use the wiki for your specific questions that you may have.